Hi, my name is Reverend Dale Brown, and I have the great privilege of being the senior pastor at Community Church, Ocean Pines. It's a wonderful United Methodist church, and I get the joy of just being here as a part of the congregation. The fun of being a pastor here is the people and the chance to serve God and to help the community. And I commend the church to you for worship and for other things that you might need. We do this weekly podcast, and it is my privilege today to welcome Jean. Jean is with the Society of St. Andrew. The Society of St. Andrew is, as a purpose, as a mission, is to end hunger through gleaning. And she'll certainly add to that and maybe correct my misspeaking in a minute here. But Jean is a wonderful lady. She's been doing this for many years, and she'll tell us more. And she is qualified because she's a grandmother. And so I am aware of that. And Jean, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
It's good to be here.
Well, and it's, I think we first met in Snow Hill at my son's church and at annual conference. You were very helpful in checking when my new grandchild was born. And so, friend, it's welcome. I'm glad to see you. And we're excited for the next 15 or so minutes to talk about the Society of St. Andrew and the important work that you do and that the society does as well. So first of all, tell me, what is the Society of St. Andrew?
We are the nation's largest gleaning organization, like in the Old Testament, but it's a little updated. So we work with, we build relationships with kind of a triangle, if you will, of farmers and packing houses where food goes to waste, volunteers who can go and either pick that food in the fields or pick the food up from the packing houses, and agencies in the community that can receive it. And we define agencies as very, very broadly. We work with places as large as the Maryland Food Bank or the Delaware Food Bank. We also work with small food pantries, soup kitchens, underserved neighborhoods, if we have an access point directly into a neighborhood, to try to get the fresh fruits and vegetables that go to waste in the food system as directly as possible to the people who will use them, because they are perishable.
And it's important because we don't want to waste food, and we don't want people to be hungry when food is here.
Right. And something that not a lot of people know, I think more people know now, it's gaining in awareness, is that about 40% of food in the United States goes to waste. So there's a lot of waste just in, things that get graded out, things that are left behind in the fields, all kinds of reasons food goes to waste. And then you have anywhere from, 10 to 25% of people living in our communities that are food insecure. So it's a really common sense approach to take the food that would go to waste, and it's the most nutritious food out there. It's fruits and vegetables that are so expensive in the stores, and get it to people who wouldn't have access to it, who might have health issues, and it's the food that they need for their diets.
Yeah. Gee, when I was serving in Bridgeville, we had the MAC Center that would send people down and transport them down to the church. And we had, on Fridays, we had fresh fruits and vegetables that were in season. And local farmers packed them and brought them in because they did not want to see the food go to waste.
Right.
And I remember the joy that those folks had because they knew how to cook them. They knew what to do with a rhubarb. I wouldn't know what to do with that at this stage in my life. Okay, well, I appreciate that. That sounds like a good plan. But this morning I've received so many tomatoes, and I love. My grandfather said to me one time, if you eat any more tomatoes, you're going to turn into a tomato. And they have, all different kinds, shapes, sizes, colors, everything. And I couldn't eat them all. I had to throw them away. I've given so many tomatoes away that people don't like to see me coming for them down the hall at church. So having someone who I could give them to is really wonderful. And I think we all have squash and zucchini stories of how people are looking at us because we've got so much of it. It's very prolific. So how did the Society of St. Andrew begin? What prompted that beginning?
We're actually at our 40-year anniversary of our Gleaning network. So it's kind of the story is really fresh in my mind. So it started, Society of St. Andrew actually started in 1979, was started by two Methodist ministers and their families in Big Island, Virginia, which is near Lynchburg. And they had moved to a plot of land to live an intentional and simple life. So it was that period, kind of about the same time Habitat for Humanity got its start. Really a point of intentional living and more simple living. And they did several things during those first 4 years. And they were at a point where they were kind of struggling to figure out where they were going to go with this ministry. And they were invited to speak to a church on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, Franktown United Methodist. And they came over to talk at the church, and they were talking about the fact that food goes to waste and there's hungry people. And one of the farmers in the congregation got a little defensive and said, I take care of my land and I do a good job harvesting, and I don't think food goes to waste. And there was a discussion, and this farmer said, look, if you can find food that goes to waste in my fields, you're welcome to it. And out of that relationship, they received their first truckload of potatoes from this farmer. And so Society of St. Andrew became not just an as nonprofit that was working on simple living, but became more food rescue and food distribution focused. And so it all ties in together. Simple living means not wasting the things that God gives us and the bounty that's around us. So 40 years ago this July, we held our first gleaning on the Eastern Shore of Virginia in Franktown. So that's how we got
right where Franktown is. Probably no one else to be talking to, because my family's from Accomack County.
Okay.
And things. So I know roughly where that is.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah, that's really cool. And the first time I ever came in contact with the Society of St. Andrew was in Harrisonburg, Virginia, at college, at Eastern Mennonite College. And they would love this program because they can talk that, we don't want to waste. We want to live simply. We want to live in a way that other people can have what they need to eat, to survive, and to have for their table. So I think it's a tremendous, tremendous idea. And so happy anniversary.
Thank you.
As well. That's great. So how did you get involved?
I grew up on a farm in northern Minnesota, so I love all things farming.
Your accent came through when you said the word Minnesota.
I don't lose that. So so was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. My husband and I had moved there for his job, and it was during the Great Recession, kind of the tail end of the Great Recession, and I was working in a job that just wasn't very fulfilling at that point. We finally paid off college for our son, and he was launched, and it came an opportunity came available to work part-time for Society of St. Andrew, setting up field events, taking people out into fields. And so I said, just part-time, I'll do it for a couple of years and then I'll find, something else. But I just needed that kind of break and that, feeling at the end of the day, like I'd accomplished something and made a difference. So I started out like 15 hours a week and just never left. I just loved it. I loved the relationships with the farmers. I loved the relationships with the volunteers. I loved knowing that if I answered the phone in the morning, somebody was eating better by afternoon. It was just a really tangible sense of, a tangible way to make a difference. And so that was 2012 when I started, and we're in 2023, and here I still am. And
now you're not. Are you still part-time? Are you full-time now? What are you?
I'm a full-time. I've been full-time for several years, and I worked as what we call a program coordinator, which does a lot of the grassroots, going out, actually taking people into the fields. When they decided to open an office on the Delmarva Peninsula, I raised my hand and said, I will move there to open the office because, as you said, I had a granddaughter in the mix and she wasn't born yet, but we knew we wanted to be closer. She's in Baltimore.
So, absolutely.
So that was exciting to also be able to come here and open this office and kind of build it from the ground up, if you will. So
your region is the entire peninsula.
yeah, from Wilmington, Delaware, down to Cape Charles, Virginia. Yeah.
And there are a lot of farms in that region.
There are.
You've got a lot of work.
We do.
Does the food stay local? Or
as much as possible.
Send it other places?
Yeah, as much as possible.
So when someone's out gleaning, go ahead.
Yeah. So as much as possible, we want the food to stay as close to where it's gleaned as we can.
Okay.
So, we were gleaning corn in Delaware with the Maryland Food Bank, had a contact with a farmer in Delaware. So we joined with the Maryland Food Bank, and we had, folks from small pantries in Delaware that came and picked food and, 20 miles away, and then they were able to serve it. So it's as fresh, it's as fresh as it can be at that point, and as nutritious as it can be. Yeah. So we do hope that if we can start getting larger loads of things from some of the larger farms, then that's the opportunity for us to maybe move some of that food off the peninsula, but again, keeping it as close as possible. Baltimore, Philadelphia, DC, those population centers.
Sure. Because
for now, it's
rural poverty is different than urban poverty. And, I dealt with a lot of homelessness issue on a rural basis. And it doesn't look like people walking up and down the street. It's sometimes invisible. And we would think a place where there's so much food, everybody certainly has something to eat. And it's not true. Not true at all. So what you're doing is really important. So if I'm someone who wants to volunteer, wants to get involved, and such, what are some of the things that you might have me do?
Well, our main thing that we try to pull people into is actually volunteering for what we call field gleaning, which is going out into the fields after the harvest, and like we've been doing in this cornfield, and you go through what the farmer can't pick or sell in time. We work for about 2 hours at a time, no more than that usually, because it can be physical work.
Sure.
But
if you're not used to it.
Yeah. None of us are used to it. Even if I'm doing it 4 days a week, I'm not that good at it. So we try to do it either early in the morning, or we've been gleaning in the evenings some as well. So after the either before or after the worst heat of the day, we work for a couple hours, and then that food is loaded directly into vehicles that will take it to folks who need it. So it's a really immediate gratification. We had probably 30 people out with the Maryland Food Bank, some from Society St. Andrew, some from the food bank, in a cornfield the other night, and they filled 8 of those big watermelon bins full of corn in about an hour and a half. So it's a lot of corn, and you just cannot underestimate, how much each pair of hands makes a difference. So we had children working, we had people in their 80s working, we had everybody out working together, and it's a really great community kind of feel. And
you have this, you have working there, doing something very tangible, very hands-on, that has immediate help to someone. I'm sure that corn will be given away the next day or very soon, and you know that somebody is eating. Otherwise, we feel that a lot of times in ministry in other ways as well. So you were in Hurlock, I think you had said, when you were gleaning the corn, and you had 30 people there. What if I have a group that's smaller than that? If I just as an individual want to help? Is that okay?
Pardon me? I'm sorry, I didn't.
If I have a group that's okay. If I have a group that's smaller than that, or if just like say I'm sitting at the house one night and I say, man, I just have a great desire to go pick watermelon or pick corn or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So folks join us in many different ways. So folks will come out, like a whole church group could come out, or a business might want to do team building. So, a whole group might come out, but most of the folks that come out and join us come out as individuals or couples. And so what we do is we have we have you could just email me or call me,
Okay.
and we can get you into our database. And
Okay.
when an event happens that's near enough to you that we think it would work for you to maybe want to come to it,
Right.
and you'll get an email that'll say, we're picking tomatoes in Laurel, Delaware, or we're picking, watermelon in Somerset County or whatever. And
Right.
and the time. And then if you think you might want to come, then you just reach back out to us and say, I think I could come that morning and do that.
Okay.
So it's really not, usually it's not like large groups of people. It's a group of individuals coming together to do.
Oh, wow, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's very, I'm excited about that, because that is a reminder that there are a lot of people out there who really want to do something good.
Yeah.
We want to talk about the bad that happens and the things that we see and that are not working. There's a lot of good people out there who care. Farmers, with my experiences, I've served many churches in this conference, really do care about the land. They care about their food.
Oh, definitely.
They are never offended if it's used to help people that are vulnerable or have food insecurity. That makes my day, because it's just a good piece to hear about how many individuals are coming out. How could we financially support you?
You can go to our website, which is endhunger.org, and we welcome all donations. There's a donation page there.
Okay.
And congregations or individuals, we welcome all donations. We use our money. We have very low operating costs. We don't have, we don't own buildings or warehouses or trucks. Our labor force is our volunteers, but we do have, some overhead for staffing and for transportation costs, things like that. So, the easiest way is either online. You can do online giving, or if people aren't comfortable with that, there's contact information for our office on there. Folks can just write a check and it will come to me, and it'll, go to feeding people.
Yeah, I notice you're not sitting in a plush office.
I'm not. I am not.
I wouldn't know what to do with a plush office, Gene, so it's okay.
No, I don't. We do have an office in Salisbury. We are at St. Albans Episcopal Church, and we're in one of their Sunday school rooms. So it's a small space for the two of us, and I work with a program coordinator, and so we do have a small office space, but I work a lot from home just because of the nature of, we're
and
here.
St. Albans is a wonderful church.
It's a fantastic
my
congregation.
connection to them is that they have a portable labyrinth, and I've walked their labyrinth many times. They've used it at annual conference, and they're very generous people. They're very,
it's
very
a lovely,
folks.
lovely congregation.
It is. So as we move towards the end of our time together, tell me, what would you say to someone about the Society of St. Andrew and what you do, and why is this important, and why should they get involved? When they have all these other options, what makes it the thing to do to really, I have my reasons and what I think is important, but what would you say to someone?
I just think that we live in a country where we take so much for granted, and we live in a place where there's such bounty around us, and I think that it's good for all of us to be reminded that amid all that bounty, there are still people who are struggling, and that it's really not that hard for us to make a really big difference in someone's life, and honestly have a pretty nice time doing it, out on a farm, out with other people in community, and seeing a really tangible result at the end. I used to take people out back in Charlotte, and one of the farms would take us out to the field on a wagon, and I would tell people, people pay good money for these wagon rides,
Absolutely.
Like it's just an opportunity to be in touch with, with our agrarian roots and with the community around us. And it's, I wanted to make sure I mentioned other volunteer opportunities that we have for folks who don't feel like they're comfortable being out in a field or or working for 2 hours in that way. We always also are looking for people who have flexibility and could go pick up food for us. And usually that food is at a farm. The farmers will load it into the back of their SUV or their pickup truck, and it goes straight to an agency and is unloaded. So it's not a physical job. It's a driving kind of a job. And it's really important for us to connect the dots between the farms and the agencies that way. So that's a great way for folks that can plug in.
And it's important that it get to the people who need it, because I think you're absolutely right. For the person who is volunteering, it's fun. I mean, this is exciting. You know, I can think of taking a youth group to different places at different times, and time flew. We just felt like we were doing something good, and you know, we gave each other a hard time or cheered each other on and laughed a lot. But it's really important what you're doing and making sure that people who are struggling get not just food, but get healthy food.
Right.
We have a food pantry here at Community Church, and at another church I had served, we have these canned goods that come in, and canned goods are wonderful, and there's a time for that, and people need to eat all year. But there was this can that came in, and we were so mystified with it. It was called meatless chicken. Well, and I think we gave a donation to replace it, but we had to find out what meatless chicken was all about. And I think meatless chicken actually is something like tofu, but there is no meat in it. And let me just say, if it's in the store, don't buy it, because you will regret meatless chicken. And we get a lot of outdated stuff, which we don't give away, because we are concerned about the well-being of those who receive it. They are our sisters and brothers, and in God's sight of equal value to us. And, you know, it's important that we treat them well. Well, this month we are highlighting our food pantry as our missional part of the church. And we always say, don't give something you wouldn't need.
Yes.
Make sure it's something, if you put, you know, if you went in on somebody else's table, then make sure it's something that would show up on yours.
Yeah.
So, friend, I think we're going to come to the time of closing.
Okay.
And thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. And
Thank you.
you know, if anybody needs a reference, I would certainly do that for you and for the society.
Well, thank you.
I think it's a wonderful thing. When I was living in Kent County, they had some who did potatoes, persons who did that. And I always remember that I would see those potatoes that were just freshly dug at the food pantry. And, you know, I think it's a great thing to not waste. And it really brings community together, which out of that community, a lot of things can grow. A lot of good can be done. Yeah.
And what we try so much, you know, you were talking about the farmers bringing the food in to the senior citizens, and that's wonderful. But a lot of times farmers just simply don't have time to do that with their schedules. So we try to be that connector, that if the farmers, and we know the farmers don't want their hard work to go to waste. So we try to be that connector and help them get that food to the folks in the community who need it. So, you know, farmers are hardworking people, and they, in some ways, they have the most faith of anybody I've ever known. With they do. Trusting God for rain and mineral and nutrients from the soil and things. So keep the good work. Thank you. And I encourage people to come out and to help and to inquire. I continue to talk about the society, places where I go, and hopefully together we can do what your email address says, and that's End Hunger. That would be a wonderful day. Gene, blessings to you. Thank you. Thanks so much, Dale. Take care. I appreciate it.